Hey everyone. So I want to talk about the 7 habits of highly effective daters. According to Pew Research Center, nearly half of adults say their dating lives are not going well, and that the most common explanation is the challenge of finding someone who's looking for the same type of relationship, which, let's face it, means someone who wants to make a permanent commitment. Otherwise, why are you dating? So in light of that, and also I think even without that research, most of us can see the complete disaster that dating has become in America. So I want to talk about 7 things that effective daters do to get the end result, which presumably is marriage. I'm going to assume that most people who are dating, or at least for the purpose of this video, are looking for a spouse. I don't know why people feel so hesitant about admitting that as if it's a bad thing. I think when you're dating, it's kind of obvious that who wants to feel like you're just in this for a ride, right? Nobody wants to feel that way. So might as well get it on the table that you're looking for a partner. And I think that's one of the biggest problems that young people have. And I've worked with single women who are right around 30 years old and they are ready to get married. And I always say the same thing. Don't hide it. You have to let the person know what you're looking for, at least by the second or third date, maybe not on the first date, so that if he or she is not looking for the same thing, move along. Next, right? You don't have time to waste. So put it out on the table right away in some capacity. And typically speaking, if you're getting to know each other via dating, it doesn't need to be announced in any kind of formal way. It should be kind of obvious. Okay, 7 things. Number 1, they don't allow texting at the onset of the relationship. I cannot tell you how frustrating it is as somebody who did not have texting in her day to watch young people try to maneuver the very, very beginning of the relationship. I'm not talking about once you're ensconced in a relationship. Text all you want then. But at the beginning, there's too much room for confusion, number 1. And number 2, you're completely missing out on hearing the person, seeing the person, having actual communication. So this idea that texting is normal and should be accepted is ridiculous. Make your standards clear. Hey, I don't mind texting, or you don't even have to say I don't mind texting. Just, hey, I really would appreciate talking on the phone or seeing you on FaceTime if you want to do FaceTime. But really just the phone, making that a mode of communication again is going to have to come from somebody making that standard for the relationship. Otherwise, people just are kind of assuming that everybody else just thinks this is normal. Meanwhile, you're having this completely cryptic conversation that makes no sense. So stop a person, whoever's doing the most texting, and say, hey, I'd really love to talk to you on the phone, or hey, I'd really love to see you. It's too confusing to just text right now. That's number 1. Number 2, they don't jump into bed with each other at hello or the first, second, third date. Basically, they keep the sex out of the relationship until that bond and relationship has been established down the line. This idea that a date involves sex is crazy. Crazy. I just can't believe how far off we've gotten with this whole, I don't want to call it hookup culture. Even when you're dating and trying to establish a relationship and you're older, the idea is that if you have the attraction, you should get into bed together. It's crazy. And you've probably seen these films today. The average rom-com today, they literally meet and have sex that day. What? This is not normal. This is not normal human behavior. It may appear normal because it seems like that's the problem with things being normalized. They appear normal, but it is not normal. And it ruins the relationship. You have completely put the cart before the horse. You want to reverse that and establish the relationship first. It is very, very important to do this before you add that element into the relationship. And you can call that being prude all you want. That's ridiculous. It's called being smart. It's called trying to establish a relationship here and let that other part do its thing naturally after that step has been completed. Number 3, they talk about what they want for the future. This goes back to what I was saying at the beginning. it's really natural when you're actually dating and going out and having long conversations over dinner or at each other's apartments or wherever you are. Presumably you're going to be talking about what it is that you want for the future, rather than pretending that you're not looking for a relationship that lasts, or you're not looking to get married, especially when you're older. As I said, you don't have time to waste if 10 years have gone by and you want to find a spouse. Put it out on the table. Stop playing games. Just say what it is you want. That's something my husband and I absolutely did in the beginning. And I now I look back and I think, God, were we weird? I mean, I think this was just a normal thing to do. And the people who are successful at dating for the purpose of getting married do this. They don't play games and wait around to see what's going to happen and then waste time. Number 4, they have reasonable expectations, not inflated expectations. And let's face it, it's more women than men who have these unreasonable expectations. Men are pretty simple. You know, they just don't need a lot. Kindness, femininity, honesty, really basic expectations for human behavior, whereas women just want it all. And that's going to be problematic down the line. Obviously, you're not going to get all your expectations met. So have reasonable expectations for what a person can offer you. It's very hard to get everything you want all wrapped up in one person. In fact, it's impossible. So just don't even go there. Number 5, they consider their non-negotiables. So each person really needs to come up with, look, what are those, say, top 3 things that you have to have or that you can't live without in another person, and not get so focused on this long list of what you do want, but what must you absolutely have in order to be happy? Those are your non-negotiables. So too many people are not paying any attention, for example, to what it is they're going to want once they get married and have kids. So the most obvious thing is the work and family dilemma, right? When I was dating my husband, I made it very clear from the get-go, whenever I had children, I was going to stay home with them. I didn't really have to announce it because I'd actually been married before for a few years, no kids. And in describing what happened there, it was kind of obvious. But I made it very clear that whenever I had children, I was going to stay home with them. So ding, 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 that lets the other person know, oh, then they're going to have to be the breadwinner in order for that to happen, at least for X amount of years. Fortunately, he happened to agree with that arrangement, so it was a non-issue. But so many people don't cover that. And then they try to figure it out after they're pregnant and home, and somebody wants to stay home and somebody doesn't want them to, or they've made all these decisions financially, making with one expectation and then realize that, oh, that doesn't even match what I wanted. So the non-negotiables are huge. You've got to know what those are and state them outright during the dating phase. Number 6, they pay attention to the other person's family of origin and what those relationships are like, and potentially discuss what you expect going forward after you're married when it comes to that family of origin, because it's so important that everybody has boundaries, that the couple, I should say, has boundaries in this domain. And there are a lot of people who are really super close to their families of origin, and that can't necessarily continue after you're married, because the family that you create, the new family you create, has to be number 1. And that family of origin takes a back seat, or they're on the periphery. If you notice that that may not be the case, or if you're concerned about that, you have a conversation about that. And that's just one example of it. Another can be how utterly disastrous some upbringings and childhoods are, and whether or not that person is very, very, very emotionally unwell as a result of what happened to him or her as a child. So that's something else that they pay attention to. People who successfully date, they take notice of that. And that's a hard one, because there are so many people today with so much residual stuff. And I'm not suggesting that you don't marry that person if that's the case, because then nobody would really be married, actually. But that you just pay attention to that and understand what your what you're in for. And last but not least, they run at the sign of enough red flags. Let me be the person who tells you not to do what I did, because there were many red flags in my first marriage, and I did not run. I believed that love would see us through, and those red flags were waving. I'm not going to get into that, what they were right now, or what that was all about, but I ignored them. And that's because I believed that love could overpower those red flags, and it can't and it won't pay attention to them. I think I did a video on just on red flags. So if some of you are wondering, okay, so what are some of those red flags? I mean, it could be a person drinks too much. It could be different values, priorities. That's kind of more obvious. It could be bad behavior as far as, how your boyfriend or girlfriend treats servers. I think that's a really big one. But I'm going to do a whole separate thing, if I haven't already, I feel like I did, on red flags, because I think that's really, really helpful. Okay, so that's it. That's the 7 habits of highly effective daters. I hope it helps. Thanks for listening, everyone, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel.